Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Moto, and Honda's Rebel 300 is synonymous with entry-level motorcycle. Now that is one of the most used and abused terms on the internet, is entry-level bike or beginner bike or lightweight bike or anything. But this is the epitome. If we go back to bikes like the Rebel 250 or the Nighthawk 250, many of you, if you are riders, have taken their learners classes on these motorcycles. Many of you have started on these cruiser motorcycles, and all for good reason, because the Honda, well, now it's a single cylinder, used to be a twin cylinder, but kind of 250 to 300 cc low lightweight cruiser platform provides an affordable, easy to work on, easy to own, and easy to ride experience for those looking to get on two wheels. So even if you're looking to get to sport bikes or off-road bikes or supermotos or whatever it is, you can have a good time learning on a bike like this. Now, Honda has taken a bet here with the 2026 model that by adding their e-clutch technology, it's going to make the bike that much more accessible to people looking to get on two wheels. So yes, you can now ride this motorcycle without touching the clutch lever, which is what I'm going to show you here today. We are riding around LA on the Rebel 300, taking it around the city streets and experiencing kind of this halfway automatic transmission. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit more when we're actually on the bike and we're out there riding. But essentially, what you see right here is two little electric motors that actuate the clutch for you if you want them to. But the beauty with Honda's e-clutch is that if you don't want them to do that, you can entirely ride it like a normal motorcycle. I am curious, if you were to take this bike to an MSF course and try to get your motorcycle license, if you'd be allowed to use the e-clutch or if you'd have to manually clutch. I don't know. I bet you could slide it under the radar and not even tell some of those old fogey kind of instructors that it's a manual, or that it isn't a manual, full manual, and they wouldn't be any of the wiser. But other things you need to know about the bike: it does get about a $500-ish price increase over the 2025 model. I would have to think most of that is because of the e-clutch. So after the $600 destination fee, you're looking at right around $6,000 for this motorcycle. It's rocking a single cylinder, just under 300 cc motor, liquid cooled. Don't have power figures in front of me right now. They kind of don't matter. It essentially makes enough power to ride it everywhere, but not so much power that it can be scary. And it is a little portly, 376 pounds, wet and ready to ride, but because it's the 27-ish inch seat height, it is very, very easy to ride for nearly any sort of walking person. So, no passenger seat, very, very simple gauge cluster, just a little bit of an LCD display, but it does give you a gear indicator and a fuel gauge, two things that the W230 from Kawasaki does not. Kind of a lazy, I think maybe oh yeah, we just got it to stall. So something about this motor didn't want to be running right there. But we've got a group ride here today. We are out with a number of other riders taking this bike through the city streets. So, as you may have noticed right there, I was entirely riding it like a normal manual motorcycle. And that's what's nice about the e-clutch is if you're more of a veteran rider and you hop on and you're used to grabbing the clutch in an emergency sort of situation or coming up to a stop or whatever, the bike is going to be totally predictable. I could put you on this and not tell you that it's any different than a standard manual transmission motorcycle, and you'd barely be any the wiser. But if I start riding here, now I'm in first, I get this little green light, I can shift without ever touching the clutch. And not only that, I can come to a stop without ever touching the clutch either. And when that happens, the motorcycle's computer is acknowledging all of my situation, and it's pulling the clutch in for me. And I gotta say, it does a remarkably good job. And I know that also from not only this application, but on the Honda CBR 650R that gets the e-clutch as well. You get it on the CB650R, the CBR 650R, and they're putting it on the Hornet as well, the 750 Hornet, which is pretty cool. Now, I do get a little bit torn on the value of the e-clutch here, because on one hand, it does make riding easier. It kind of eliminates clutch fatigue. It eliminates a degree of decision making. There's wisdom from a Twist of the Wrist racing book that talks about if you had a dollar of attention to spend whenever you're riding, everything you have to think about takes some degree of that dollar amount away. So if you're thinking about braking, that might take 15 cents. If you're thinking about where you're going to go to dinner that night, you might be spending 5 or 10 cents of your attention on that. And for a veteran rider, using the clutch is probably taking up a very, very small amount of our riding budget, if you will, our attention budget. But if you're a newer rider and you're trying to think, okay, you know, I got to make that left turn back there, and then also I have to pull the clutch in, I got to let it out, I got to pull it into shift, that might be taking up up to a quarter maybe of your attention budget. So I understand the benefit of not having to have clutch actuation there, and if it gets more people on two wheels, then I am for it. However, I will also acknowledge that using the clutch on a tiny lightweight bike like this is kind of part of the experience of riding. And I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, all bikes should have clutches, I don't think e-clutch should exist. I'm not in that camp. I'm just kind of thinking, okay, when you're talking about cost and complexity and longevity, I'd kind of rather a bike like this just sort of stay simple. But Honda still has the CB300R for you if you want to save a little cash, and if you don't want to bother with the e-clutch. Now, on a bigger bike, like when I had it on the CBR 650R, I appreciated it. I really did, because when I was just kind of commuting or getting around town or anything like that, I didn't have to use the clutch. It was great. I could just shift with my feet and kind of make it through my day of riding, and that was it. But then when I got into the canyons and I wanted to shift the bike, I had a true manual riding experience. It was very intuitive and a classic feel, so I appreciated that. So whatever Honda's reasons are for bringing the e-clutch over to the Rebel 300 here, it's here. So this is the only way you're getting a Rebel 300 now for 2026 model year. So how about the rest of the bike, Charlie? Well, they introduced this generation of Rebel back in, I think it was 2017. And then 2020, it got a host of upgrades, better readable LCD dash, LED lights around, improved suspension and seat comfort, as well as a number of other little tweaks to make the bike look just that much better. It's been essentially unchanged for the last half decade, so e-clutch is pretty much the only change we're getting here. However, I have never ridden a Rebel. I have heard all about them. I've ridden old Nighthawks, I've ridden the SCL and the NX, but never the classic Rebel. And I admittedly have always been of the opinion, ill-informed, mind you, but of the opinion that the Rebel 300 was silly, because you can step up to the 500, you get 2 cylinders, you get a bunch more power, and essentially the way I looked at it is, okay, this is a motorcycle that you could purchase and ride for the rest of your life if you wanted. Honda's 500 mil is so usable for all different sorts of riders and riding that it could be a bike that you purchase and have for 15 years. So I always thought to myself, all right, well, what's the point of the 300? Because you're going to have to upgrade it. There's no getting around that. And I gotta say, my tune has changed a little bit. My overall feeling has changed now getting on the bike, because we've been riding all day. We even did a little bit of highway. I think we're gonna be doing some more highway here at the end of our ride. And it's got grunt. I got up to 74 miles per hour in 4th gear. So it's got the gearing, you know, we got 6 speeds on here. It's got enough power where you can rev it down here and I can have fun. I haven't had a shortage of fun today. But there's also the perspective of, okay, even if you get the 500, you're probably going to want to change bikes at some point in the first few years of your riding career, because you're going to find that you like a different type of riding better, or you're going to find that you weren't comfortable on the bike, or you want a lot more power. I mean, there's so many reasons why people change motorcycles, not just because of power figures. So I kind of see the argument of, okay, just save the most money possible, get the 300, get the entry-level bike, and then either keep it for a while, have fun with it, or upgrade it. You see how right there I'm in this traffic situation, and my instinct was to grab the clutch and downshift, and I did just that, and the bike responded exactly how I'd expect it to. It's not like a Honda DCT where there's no grab and clutch on that. Might be one of our last chances right there to kind of ring it out, but as you can see, there's a good amount of grunt, there's a good amount of twist. It's enough to have fun, but it by no means is yanking you away. And in fact, on the 500 Honda motors, I usually go as far as to say it's got a fun little character, it's grunty, I like the noise. I really don't think there's much redeeming about this engine. And the best thing you can say about it is it goes forward, and it causes the bike to go forward. And for an entry-level rider, that's the main thing. I mean, going forward on two wheels is super exciting, but other than that, we're getting 66 miles per gallon on this ride. I mean, that's nice. The last thing I will say, though, is that it's not one of those absolutely gutless engines like the Honda 250s of yore that barely got out of their own way and you were just really giving it everything you got in order to get up to highway speeds. There is power here, so I don't want you to hear that it's slow. It's just not inspirational. It's not fun. It's not exciting or thrilling by any means. Right there with that E-clutch, nice little downshift without having to use the clutch. No sort of peak to the power curve. I mean, it's pretty linear acceleration. Obviously, pegs are going to scrape pretty easy. But one aspect that has impressed me with the Rebel is the suspension. Now, oh wow, a G63 squared. But one aspect of the Rebel that has impressed me is actually the suspension. I fully expected Honda to take us on some prescribed route today that avoided any semblance of broken road. I figured they would be wanting us to kind of stay nice, smooth city streets like this so that we didn't talk about the bad suspension on this bike. But that's not the case. It's actually done pretty well over rough, kind of ragged streets. So whatever changes they made at some point in this bike's life cycle, and maybe some of the tire sidewall, whatever it is, it's a compliant suspension. I haven't been mad about it. Oh, see right there, that was a big bump and did not do anything to the bike. The rest of the motorcycle, obviously it is remarkably low, so we can see an assortment of riders here. We've got Ari Henning from Revzilla over there. You can see he's kind of average height. There's your knees on it, there's your legs. We've got some women riders here that are a little bit smaller. They're fitting on the bike well. We've got Evan over here from Cycle World. He's got a ton of knee. There we go, another woman. So everyone's fitting nicely on the bike. So despite it being a little bit heavier than some people might want, there's a lot of throwability to it and maneuverability on this bike. So again, being able to come to a stop like this, firmly put my feet down, that's going to build a lot of confidence for more novice riders. We're also getting a nice view of all the LED lights. So you got LED brake lights, LED turn signals. I mean, it's a nice build motorcycle. You've got metal bits. It all looks cool with kind of this matte black around. There's also a lighter grayish silver sort of color that we don't have out here today. And the other thing that's kind of cool is that the rest of the Rebel lineup all looks similar. So all the way up to the full-fledged 1100, it just looks like one of these. So kind of similar to how you can be on a Ninja these days and the general person's not going to know that you're only on a Ninja 500. most people aren't going to know you're only on a Rebel 300. There's no branding on it, other than the fact that you just got one little cylinder head sticking out of there that the keen eye could pick up on. It's mostly just a Rebel, and it's going to look just like the bigger bike. However, I would almost argue that that's almost more of a con against the Rebel 1100 than a pro for the Rebel 300. In fact, that bike just went buzzing by us right there. That was a 500. Again, you wouldn't know. Ergonomics are great for somebody 5'10", such as myself. I'm liking the seating position. I'm liking the handlebars. It's almost a full outstretch, which is how I like to ride. I like to have my arms way out. The foot pegs are a little high up. However, comfort all day hasn't been an issue. There is a little bit of an aspect where if you got a skinnier butt, such as myself, because your legs are kind of upright, you're putting a decent amount of weight right on your butt muscles and kind of your butt bones. There can be a degree of soreness there, but all things considered, for the type of motorcycle it is, I've actually been impressed with the comfort all around. There's no tachometer. I don't really mind that. There's enough rev range in this bike that you're not going to get one of those situations where you're running into the rev limiter. In fact, I have not hit the rev limiter today, and I've rung it out pretty hard, so I assume there's a rev cut somewhere. Let me see. Yeah, it's up there, but I haven't gotten to that point. No adjustability to the clutch and brake levers. Minimal adjustability to the suspension. We've got rear preload adjustment. So essentially, if you're heavier, you can adjust the shocks to kind of expect your heavier load. No passenger seat that comes on the back of the bike. I think that's a little bit of a downside. I mean, obviously you know what you're signing up for, so if that's going to be a big deal for you, you either one, get the accessory seat that can go on there, or two, buy a different motorcycle. But I don't know, there's going to be kind of split camps on this. Some people are going to think, well, as a newer rider, you shouldn't be taking passengers. And then there's going to be the other group of people, myself included, that are more like, hey, you never know when someone's going to need just a quick ride down the street or something like that, and it's nice for them to be able to hop on the back. Or even just for strapping stuff on there. Speaking of stuff, I'm wearing my Helite H-Move backpack today because obviously no sort of storage on this motorcycle, and that provides me both a place to put stuff, including some water, got a little water bladder going, but also provides me airbag protection. So if I were to have an accident right now, it would detect the sudden change in motion, and it would inflate around my head, neck, and vital organ areas, and theoretically keep them from perishing. So a little expensive. You're looking at $800 or $900 or so for this unit, but if you're new to riding and you're gearing yourself up, I would highly recommend spending the money on a helmet and an airbag. I'm also wearing the Arai Contour X helmet, and it's kind of funny going on these events because you can see how many other riding professionals wear Arais as well. I think at least half the group is wearing Arai helmets, and that's not just because Arai is happy to give helmets out, but it's because Arai does such a great job at safety. And when you're doing this for a living, you're going to prioritize your safety. And Arai is one of the safest out there. So check the links below for either the Helites or the Arai. All my other gear is just crap. You can see that my jacket broke this morning. So I've had my arm exposed to the elements all day because my zipper broke. I do think it's fantastic that Honda does at least give you a clock on this motorcycle. As weird as it sounds, I'd rather have a clock than a tachometer because, hey, it's good to know what time it is when you're out and about riding, especially because it's the type of bike that a lot of people are going to use as a means of regular transportation. If you're spending $6,000 on a little Rebel and it's one of your first bikes or something, I mean, you're going to want to take it to go out at night or run to class or to work or something like that. The fact that you can see if you're running late or running early, or if you're just out for a leisurely ride when you need to head back. I know it sounds minor, but I'm thankful they gave us a clock. So if you're in the market for an entry-level cruiser bike like this, the Rebel 300 is still one of your smartest options for how much you're spending and how much you're going to spend on keeping it on the road. It's going to be cheap to insure, cheap to maintain, easy to maintain, cheap to fuel up. I mean, it allows you to prioritize being on the motorcycle as opposed to just having the motorcycle. And I think that's fantastic. Plus, there's so many Honda motorcycle dealers out there. And then when you do inevitably outgrow this motorcycle, it's going to be very easy to sell it on the secondhand market because there'll be somebody else getting into riding who wants to swing their leg over this. So are there other entry-level bike options? Of course there are, but a lot of benefits to going with something that's so simple. I mean, geez, if you needed to do something on the engine, it's right here. You're not taking plastics off or anything. If you tip it over, it's not falling against anything. I don't even think it would hit the tank, honestly. I think it would hit the handlebars, so that's kind of cool. You're going to be able to get parts easy for it if something does happen. There's going to be a lot of knowledge out there on how to work on them. I mean, it's a cool blend between a smart motorcycle and also one that's kind of cool. I mean, if you're new to bikes and you're into cruisers, you're going to see something like this and you're going to be like, that's cool. There really is. There is still that cool factor because pretty much nobody around us knows that these are just little 300cc singles. So, Honda's little Rebel 300 grows up to get a semi-automatic transmission. And to me, it makes sense because if you're Honda, you used to lead the sort of entry-level beginner rider kind of motorcycle, but now there are cheaper options, there are faster options, there are cooler options. So what can Honda lean on to stand apart in this segment? Well, their technology and their development and the fact they're putting this e-clutch on other models that are out there, the CB650R, the CBR 650R. They're going to be coming out with even more. They've had DCT for a while. So that makes it so they can stand apart. And hey, why not give somebody an entry-level lightweight cruiser bike that looks cool, fast enough to ride everywhere, going to be reliable, and is different than any other bike out there in that you don't need to use a clutch. And if it gets more people on two wheels, then I'm about it. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more bikes, check the links below. Make sure to subscribe, see our other reviews coming up, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from DM Moto, and as always, ride on.